Dear friends, I am CA Mohit Jain. Today I am going to discuss about an important concept under income tax from CA exam perspective. That's a residential status. Residential status carries at least 6 marks weightage along with another concept, income deemed to accrue arise on India. The point for consideration is why this concept is so much important. For computation of income of an individual or say any other person, this is the first step to determine. This is the first step where we need to determine whether a person is a resident or a non-resident. In this case, if a person is a resident, then the foreign income of that person, that individuals, I am focusing on individual because I'm going to explain the determination of the residential status of individual. There are several categories of person, individual, HF. I'm only discussing about the concept of the residential status of individual. Now, if a person is a resident, in a simple terms, an Indian government gets a right to tax his or her foreign income in India. If a person is not a resident, then his foreign income will not be taxable in India. I'm explaining this concept, excluding the other aspects of that thing, income accrue arise in India, income receive in India. Now, apart from this thing, taxability in India, certain additional deductions, certain beneficial tax rates are available to residents. All of us must have learned there is a concept of thing that is called senior. Under Income Tax Act, there is a concessional tax rate of up to 3 lakhs. The income of senior citizens is not taxable. Now, senior citizen is one who has achieved the age of 60 years or more and in a previous year, plus he should be a resident of India. If an individual is not a resident, then despite having an age of 60 years or more, he will not be deemed as a senior citizen. He will not be entitled to a benefit of 3 lakh rupees. This thing. This is a small benefit, but main point for this consideration is whether the foreign income of an individual is taxable in India or not. From an individual perspective, residential status can be broadly defined into two categories, resident and a non-resident. A resident then further need to be bifurcated into two categories, resident and ordinary resident, and another is resident but not ordinary resident. The reason behind this bifurcation, this revision is connection with India. In this case, law recognizes that individual has a deep connection with India, and as a result thereof, his or her entire foreign income will be taxable in India. But in this case, law regards that an individual do not have a deep connection with India. Hence, only one type of foreign income is made taxable in India. That is a foreign income from business set up outside India and controlled from India. It means physical activities of all business are being carried outside India, but the control and the management of a business is situated in India. This aspect I will cover deeply in my next video where I will explain income accrue and deemed to accrue arise in India, and along with that concept I will further explain this concept. Now comes on what factor a residential status of an individual is dependent. At present, the residential status of an individual is contingent, is dependent upon the four factor stay in India in previous year. I just explained we need to determine the residential status of an individual every year. An individual may be a resident in one previous year and he may be a non-resident in another previous year. So we need to determine a residential status of an individual every year. Now, residential status of individual is dependent upon stay in previous year and also stay in past years. This I will explain subsequently. Stay in past year. Another important factor which has been introduced in just 2 to 3 years back, the residential status of individuals is also made dependent upon the citizenship of India and person of Indian origin. This aspect I will also deal in a later on. Person of Indian origin. Another factor on which residential status is dependent is whether individual is resident of other country in a previous year. This is a newly introduced point in a determination of residential status. Another factor is what's the level of Indian income of an individual in a previous year. Now, residential status of individual is contingent, is dependent upon these four factors. Now I explain how to determine the residential status. Since there are four factors, for better understanding of a residential status, we need to divide individual into three categories. This will definitely help us in developing the steps how to determine the residential status. Otherwise, we will confuse, reason being there are many matrices, there are many variables involved in this concept. We need to divide individual where he is neither citizen nor a person of Indian origin, which in short form we say as PIU. This I explain in a little bit. Then we divide individual being a citizen of India, how to determine a residential status of an individual who is citizen of India. Then comes the third category, how to determine the residential status of individual being a person of Indian origin. Whenever question comes, determination of a residential status of an individual, we should first of all see whether individual is falling in this category, whether individual is a resident of citizen of India, whether individual is a person of Indian origin. Then accordingly we should proceed to determine the residential status. Now let me explain briefly who is a person of Indian origin. A person of Indian origin means an individual either of parents, that's mother or father, either of grandparents, that's grandfather, grandmother, were born in undivided India. For example, say Mr. X, born in 1947, 1945, say in Lahore. At that time, Lahore was a part of India. In 1980s, Mr. X settled in USA. His kids born in 1990 and they were born in USA. Let me take the year different. Let me take its kids born in say 1981. They were born in USA. Now since Mr. X was born in undivided India, say the kids of Mr. X's wife, in this case Y will be treated as a person of Indian origin because his father was born in undivided India. So if individual himself, if either of its parents or either of his grandparents were born in undivided India, that individual will be treated as a person of Indian origin, reason being the roots of that persons are from India. This is simple about the person of Indian origin. Now comes the question about determination of the residential status of an individual who is neither citizen of India nor person of Indian origin. In this category, the residential status is only depend upon a one factor, that is stay in India. No other factor need to be factored in, to be introduced in while determining the residential status of an individual who is neither citizen of India nor PIO. In this case, first of all, we will determine whether such category of individual is a resident or a non-resident. An individual will be resident in this category if he stay in India in previous year for 182 days or more. Either this condition or another condition, individual stay in India in previous year for 60 days or more plus, means both these conditions are to be satisfied in aggregate. This is a single condition, either condition number 1 or condition number 2. Condition number 2 has a 2 points. First, he should stay in India for previous year for 60 days or more, and secondly, he should stay in India in preceding for previous year for 365 days or more. If an individual is satisfying either condition number 1 or a condition number 2, in that scenario, the individual will be resident of India. Here I should emphasize two more important points. Stay in India does not need to be a continuous stay. A person can stay 2 months in a year. He went abroad, then he again come to India, stay 2 months, then went abroad. In this way, if aggregate stay in India is 182 days or more, similarly aggregate stay in India in previous year for 60 days or more, then this conditions is satisfied. It should not be cumulative, it should not be continuous. One important, this is the important point. Another important point is that if a person arrives in India say on 11:59 p.m., then in this case the entire day, she arrives India on 2nd April 21 on this time. In this case, the entire day will be counted is being in India. Similarly, if a person departs India on this time, then suppose person departs India on 30th June 2021, then even he stay in India for a 1 minute on 30th June, but the entire day will be counted as being India. It means date of arrival and date of departure are both being counted for the purpose of counting stay in India. These are two important points, but this is simple condition. First condition need to be checked whether stay in India for 182 days or more. If this condition is not satisfied, we'll go to the second condition, that stay in India for previous year for 60 days or more, or stay in India in a preceding for previous year for 365 days or more. Let me explain this topic and then I will take an example to better understand this concept. In individual, we need to determine whether a person is resident or not. And once we conclude it's a resident, then we need to go further whether that person is resident and ordinary resident or resident but not ordinary resident. We cannot confine only up to resident. We need to go to determine resident or ordinary resident and resident but not ordinary resident. Again, this is a simple condition, not technical one. We need to check either of two conditions. If either of these conditions are satisfied, a person will be treated as a resident but not ordinary resident. Let me dwell upon these condition. If an individual here says non-resident in 9 out of past 10 preceding previous year. Preceding previous year means जिस previous year का we are determining the residential status, उससे 10 साल पहले अगर individual is a non-resident in 9 years, then he will be treated as a resident but not ordinary resident of a previous year. अभी मैं example लूंगा, it will be more clear to you. Similarly, if an individual is not satisfying this condition, but individual is satisfying this condition provide individual stay in India for 729 days or less in past 7 preceding previous years. In that case also, his residential status will be of resident but not ordinary resident. Means if an individual after being deemed as a resident, we need to further classify it as a whether ordinary resident or a non-ordinary resident. If an individual satisfied either of these conditions, Both these conditions are mutually exclusive. They need not be satisfied in a cumulative. इन दोनों कंडीशंस में से जो भी कंडीशन एक इंडिविजुअल ने satisfied कर दी, that individual then will be treated as a resident but not ordinary resident. मैं एक पॉइंट बोलता हूं, और अगर दोनों कंडीशंस का ब्रीच कर दिया, मींस if an individual is not a non-resident in 9 out of past 10 preceding previous year and he stays in India for 730 days or more in past 7 preceding years, then his residential status will be of resident and ordinary resident. मीन्स अगर दोनों में से एक कंडीशन सेटिस्फाइड हो जाती है, इंडिविजुअल विल बी रेजिडेंट बट नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट, और दोनों कंडीशंस का ब्रीच वॉयलेशन होता है, देन इंडिविजुअल विल बी एंड रेजिडेंट बट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट. मैं एक एग्जांपल लेता हूं, इट विल हेल्प यू टू अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्सेप्ट. Mr. X, an Australian cricketer, not a citizen nor PI of India. It means he is a citizen of Australia, was coming to India for last 10 years for playing IPL in India. He stayed in India for 100 days every year. In previous year 21-22, he also stayed in India for 100 days. Now question says determine his residential status. Now since we take he is neither citizen nor PIO, we are only concerned with the stay in India. Rest of the factor is residential status of other country. His income level in India is immaterial. Means when a person is neither citizen nor PIO, we are only concerned with the stay in India. Now comes the question, now comes how to determine the residential status. In previous year we are need to determine the residential status for 21-22 previous year. Now we see he stay in India for how much? 100 days. He did not stay in India for 182 days, means that condition is not satisfied. We come to condition number 2, that is stay in previous year for 60 days. Yes, he is staying in India for previous year 60 days. He is satisfying part of the condition of second point. Second, we need to check whether he stay in India for 365 days or more in past 4 preceding previous year. Yes, because he is regularly coming in India for past 10 years. It means for 20, 21, 19, 20, 18, 19, 17, 18. He stayed in India for 100 days in each of these 4 preceding years. Yes, the aggregate comes to how much? 400 days. Since these number of days exceed 365 days, hence he will be a resident at this point of time. But we are not going to stop here. Whenever we determine a residential status, apart from simple resident, we need to go to determine whether that individual is a ordinary or not ordinary resident. For this purpose, we need to check whether he is satisfying either of that basic condition or not. What is that basic condition? Let me fix this slide. If he is satisfying either of these two conditions, what these conditions? Either he is non-resident in 9 out of past 10 preceding previous year, or stay in India for 729 days or less in past 7 preceding previous year. Now let me come to example again. His stay in India, since he is coming in India for 100 days for past 10 years, it means his stay in India for past 7 years is 700 days. Since he stay in India for less than 730 days, law says 729 days or less. 729 days is inclusive. Since he stay in India for less than 730 days, he is satisfying either of a condition for being resident but not ordinary resident. Since he is satisfying this condition, so his status will be resident but not ordinary resident. In short form, we represent as a RNOR. So first we determine his simple resident or non-resident status in a previous year. First we conclude he is a resident, then we go ahead and determine whether ordinary or not ordinary resident. Since he satisfied one of the condition for not ordinary resident, his status is resident but not ordinary resident. Now let me take another example which will further help you understanding this concept. Mr. X, Australian cricketer, same example, not citizen nor PIO, coming to India for last 10 years for playing IPL. He stay in India for almost 100 days every year. His precise stay in India for past 3 years is as under. Previous year 18-19, 120 days. Previous year 19-20, 190 days. Previous year 2021, 183 days. And in previous year 21-22, for which we need to determine the residential status, he stayed in India for 100 days. Now again, he is neither citizen nor PI of India. His residential status is simply dependent upon stay in India. His stay in India for 100 days, 60 days criteria is being fulfilled. Since past 4 years, his stay is more than 365 days. He is a resident. Simple. Now we come to determine whether he is ordinary or not ordinary resident. We check either of that two conditions. We check first condition, whether stay in India for past 7 years is 729 days or less. We see for past 7 years his stay is 893 days. This is for 2021, this is for 1920, this is for 1819, and this is for the remaining past 4 years. His stay is 893 days. It means he breached first condition of stay in India for less than 730 days. This is a by mistake 720. It should be read as a 730 days. Typographical error. Clear. So he has breached the first condition. Now check the second condition. What is the second condition? Whether Mr. X is not non-resident in 9 out of 10 preceding 10 years. Let us check. He was resident in 1920. Why? Because his stay is 182 days or more. Means he was a resident in previous year 1920. Again, he is a resident in 2021. Again, his stay in India in previous year 2020 was 183 days or more. It means out of 10 preceding, means 10 preceding means we are determining the residential status for previous year 21-22. इससे 10 साल पहले उसका रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस चेक हमको करना है. उसका रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस में we come to know that out of 10 preceding, we have determined not the residential status for 10 years, we determine the residential status for 2 years, and for 2 years he is a resident. It means out of 10 years he is a resident in a 2 years. What it means? He is not a non-resident in 9 years out of 10 preceding years. मीन्स पिछले 10 सालों में उसको 9 साल रेजिडेंट होना था, बट वो पिछले 9 सालों में 10 सालों में 9 साल नॉन रेजिडेंट नहीं है. क्यों? क्योंकि वो 10 सालों में 2 साल रेजिडेंट बन गया. अगर हम आगे का चेक नहीं भी करें, वो एज्यूम करें कि वो नॉन रेजिडेंट था, तो कंडीशन क्या है? 10 सालों में 9 साल नॉन रेजिडेंट होना चाहिए, बट यहाँ पे वो 10 सालों में हम एज्यूम कर रहे सिर्फ 8 साल ही नॉन रेजिडेंट है. मींस सेकंड कंडीशन भी उसने ब्रीच कर दी. जब दोनों कंडीशन ब्रीच हो जाएगी, हिज रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस विल बी रेजिडेंट एंड ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट. मींस अभी हमने क्या सीखा? 2 एग्जांपल समझे जहां पे हमने केस लिया, जहां पे हमें कंक्लूड करा कि मिस्टर एक्स इज रेजिडेंट बट नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट. दूसरा केस में हमने कंक्लूड करा ही इज अ रेजिडेंट बट ordinary resident. In both condition, in both examples, I am only concerned with the stay in India. I am not go beyond what is a citizenship, in whether he is a citizen of India or not, वो तो है ही नहीं. Whether what is the level of income in India. So what I mean to say, when a person is neither citizen nor PI of India, in that case the residential status of an individual is solely depend upon stay in India. अगर आपको क्वेश्चन आता है जहां पे क्लियर ये लिखा हुआ है, देन वी नीड नॉट गो इनटू द अदर एस्पेक्ट्स, वी आर ओनली रिक्वायर्ड टू कंसर्न अपॉन द स्टे इन इंडिया. Now comes my, here in this case, to make my exam to make to make my discussion easier, I am representing this word with the basic condition. 182 days and 60 days plus 365 and basic condition for NOR. This will help me in explaining the concept, means I need not repeat all these conditions in detail. Now comes the critical things, how to determine a residential status of an individual being citizen of India. This is important because in this category lot many variables are involved. First three variables are that individual stay in India in previous year, means rather I mean to say he is not following in these two category. These are special category. He is not falling in these two category. He is falling in a residual category which I describe as staying in India. Three categories are, rather main two categories are, if an individual leaves India for employment. यहाँ पे मुझसे word miss हो गया है, leaves India for employment in previous year, or leave India in previous year as a crew member of Indian ship. This is our citizen है, तो हमको ये पहले चेक करना है whether he leaves India in previous year for employment or he leaves India in previous year. This is very significant. और ये बेनिफिट एक, हाँ यहाँ पे मैं बेनिफिट बोल रहा हूँ, ये बेनिफिट कब मिलेगा? ओनली व्हेन ही लीव्स इंडिया फॉर एम्प्लॉयमेंट इन प्रीवियस ईयर और एज अ क्रू मेंबर ऑफ इंडियन शिप. Second special category for citizen of India. Citizen of India is staying outside India and comes on visit to India. In these two special cases, a different provision is prescribed for determination of residential status, and if a citizen of India is not falling in these two categories, then we will come to this category, stay in India. If an individual is not falling in these two categories, then determination of residential status is very simple. Satisfaction of basic condition which I narrate here for determination of residential status, and for determination of residential but not ordinary resident status, the satisfaction of these basic condition. Means if an individual is a citizen of India who is not falling in these two blocks, these two categories, his determination of his residential status is simply the satisfaction of basic condition. Now I come to this category, individual leaves India for employment. What here means employment? Employment यहाँ पे दो कैटेगरी में फॉल कर सकता है. इंडिविजुअल गेट्स एम्प्लॉयमेंट आउटसाइड इंडिया, मीन्स उसका एम्प्लॉयर इंडिया से बाहर है, वो यहाँ पे फॉल होगा. दूसरा यहाँ पे क्या फॉल होगा? उसका एम्प्लॉयर इंडिया में है बट एम्प्लॉयर हैज सेंट एम्प्लॉय अब्रॉड टू वर्क ऑन प्रोजेक्ट. बोथ कैटेगरीज में, दोनों कैटेगरीज में it will be treated as an individual leaving India for employment. यहाँ पे लॉ ने इंडिविजुअल सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया को एक बेनिफिट दे दिया है. What that benefit? An individual citizen of India who leaves India for employment in previous year, in that case we need to first check level 1 test. He will be resident only when he stay in India for 182 days or more for this residence, for being a resident. Means 60 days criteria has been removed. I will explain in example. This is a beneficial provision to an individual being citizen of India who leaves India for employment outside India. It's a beneficial provision in the sense, by removing 60 days criteria, an individual taxation burden has been reduced. And once we conclude he is a resident, then for determination of the ordinary or not ordinary this residential status, we need to apply basic condition which we learned above. Now let me take, I'm emphasizing why this is a beneficial provision. Let me take an example which will help you in understanding how it is a beneficial condition. Mr. A, citizen of India, leaves India for employment on 30/6/21. Before that, he was working in India and never visited abroad. His salary in India was 1 lakh per month and 2 lakh per month abroad. Question says determine his residential status for previous year 21/22. In 21/22, Mr. A, being a citizen of India and is leaving India for employment on 30th/6. Now we need to determine the residential status. What is our block? He's a citizen of India and is falling in the category being leaves India for employment. In this case, the only condition for residential status is 182 days or more. 60 days criteria is strictly not applicable in this case. Now comes to the answer. His stay in India, test for residential status is stay in India for 182 days or more. Leaves India on 36/21. It means for previous year 21/22, means for previous year, this previous year his stay is in India is only for 91 days, means he stay in India for less than 182 days. In this case, he will be non-resident. Now, what is the benefit about this? He is non-resident. Let me explain. Since he is a non-resident, by virtue of being stay in India for less than 182 days, his foreign income, he has earned how much foreign income into 9, 18 lakhs. This foreign income will not be taxable in India. This provision is being introduced just to encourage Indian to get employment outside India. Suppose this provision was not there, what would have been happened? Suppose this 180, suppose this 60 days criteria was there, then in that case this Mr. A would have been a resident of India. Why? Because he stay in India in previous year for 60 days, 91 days, it means he stay in India for 60 days, and since he never visited abroad in the past, obviously he was staying in India for past 4 years for 365 days. If this condition was not there, then he would be categorized as a resident of India, and in this case his entire salary, 3 lakh salary earned in India and 18 lakh salary earned abroad, entire 21 lakh salary would have been taxable in India. So by virtue of being removing that 60 days condition, this is a benefit passed on to an Indian citizen who is leaving India for employment in previous year. So his taxability in this case will be restricted to 3 lakhs of income, not 18 lakhs. Hence, I am saying by removing the 60 days condition, an individual is some benefit is being given to that individual. When citizen of India, you need to divide an individual into 3 category. Whether you think from the first 2 category, if he is not falling in first 2 category, then his residential status will be determined in this residual category. Now comes the, if an individual fail to qualify the level 1 test, we need to come to the level 2 test. What's the level 2 test? He is not a resident of any other country and it's a cumulative, means both conditions need to be satisfied, and Indian income is more than 15 lakhs in previous year. If individual being citizen of India leaves India for employment in a previous year, fail to satisfy level 1 test, we need to check the level 2 test, and the level 2 test says he is not a resident of any other country in that previous year and Indian income is more than 15 lakhs in a previous year. Let me take to this thing, what is the word non-resident of any other country and Indian income. First I come to says explain when a person is not a resident of any other country from a residential status perspective. This is defined under Income Tax Act, means individual who is not liable to tax in any other country by reason of his domicile. Domicile means stay or residence or any other criteria of similar nature. What I means, under international taxation there are two types of taxation. One is called source based taxation and another is called residence based taxation. I explain, let me write here down. Residence based taxation. सोर्स बेस्ड टैक्सेशन मैं आपको एक सिंपल एग्जांपल से समझाता हूं. से आई गो टू यूएसए, I render some services there, I earn income in USA. In that case my USA income is taxable in India. But since I am a resident of India, my that USA income will also be taxable in India. It means source based taxation will be taxable. Source based taxation, income will be taxable. Income will be taxable in a country where income is earned. Where income is earned. And a residence based taxation, the global income of an individual is taxable in a country of residence. Here what is important is an individual is not a resident of any other country if his income is not taxable in that company based on the residence. This is a concept of international taxation. This is not much of relevance to a CA inter student. So I am not deliberating more on this concept. I am simply saying for determining the level 2 test, we need to only understand a person is not resident of any other country. It means the person is not taxable in that country on account of his residence in that country. You need simply understand at this level this concept. You need not go to detail in this level. And secondly, both these conditions are to be satisfied cumulatively. The Indian income of that individual is more like 15 lakhs in that previous year, for which we are determining the residential status. What is an Indian income? Again, I will not go detail to this topic. I will cover this topic in detail when I will come up with an concept of income accrue and deemed to accrue arise in India. Just for your understanding, a brief what is Indian income. We need to add for these components, income accrue and deemed to accrue in India. We need to determine this for previous year for which we are determining residential status. Income accrue, deemed to accrue in India, income received in India, wherever accrued, income from business set up outside India, control from India, income from profession exercise outside India, set up India. These four categories are classified as an Indian income only for that purpose of that level 2 test. This aggregate of all this income will give the gross total income, and the gross total income we need to deduct chapter 6 deduction, then we come as an Indian income. If this Indian income exceeds 15 lakhs in a previous year, then only person will be satisfying that basic condition of level 2 test, that's Indian income is more than 15 lakhs. So let me summarize. If an individual being a citizen of India leaves India for employment in a previous year, we need to determine the residential status by testing the two levels. Level 1, if he stay in India for previous year for 182 days or more, he will be resident. But if he stay in India for less than 182 days, he is simply non-resident, which I explain in my example. Then after determining the person is categorizing as a resident, we need to further go to determine ordinary or not ordinary. That's based on the basic condition which I discussed above. If an individual fails to satisfy the level 1 test, we need to go to the level 2 test. And level 2 test, if a person is satisfied a level 2 test, then directly he will be called resident but not ordinary resident. And what are these two conditions? He should not be a resident of any other country. हम ये किस कैटेगरी में पढ़ रहे हैं? Citizen of India में. And Indian income is more than 15 lakhs in a previous year. This test is being also applicable here. So this category is which Indian citizen leaves India for the purpose of employment or as a member of crew of Indian ship in a previous year. I hope you must be catching up the concept. Now comes the third category. An individual being citizen of India is staying outside India and comes on visit to India. दिस इज द केस वेयर इंडिविजुअल सिटीजन है, बाहर जाके सेटल हो गया है, नाउ ही फ्रीक्वेंटली कम्स ऑन विजिट टू इंडिया. अगेन हेयर ऑल्सो अ बेनिफिट इज बीइंग गिवन टू अ सच कैटेगरीज ऑफ पर्सन. अगेन सेम थिंग जो यहाँ पे था. एंड इन दिस कैटेगरी वेयर इंडिविजुअल बीइंग अ रेजिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया हु स्टे अब्रॉड and comes on visit to India in previous year, he will be resident only when he stay in India for 182 days or more. Again this is the benefit. Reason being, अगर इंडिया एक इंडिविजुअल बाहर काम कर रहा है और वो फ्रीक्वेंटली इंडिया में आता है टू मीट हिज रिलेटिव्स, अगर वो इंडिया में 60 दिन रहता है या 100 दिन रहता है, he could be a resident. His taxability could enlarge. So again to pass on this benefit, the government has give a benefit to this category of resident, this category of individual. What is this category? Citizen of India, being a citizen of India, stay abroad and comes on visit to India. Here the level of tests are 3. First, level 1 test, same, stay in India for previous year for 182 days or more, same condition. RNOR, resident ordinary resident के लिए same basic condition which we dealt in a case where individual is neither citizen nor PIO. Level 2 test is a new test which is being introduced for this category of individual only who is staying abroad, comes on visit to India. Now if an individual of this category satisfied all 3 conditions, then directly he will be called resident but not ordinary resident. Stay in India in previous year for 120 days or more, plus stay in India in preceding 4 previous year for 365 days or more, plus total Indian income is more than 15 lakhs. This level 2 test will apply only if level 1 test fails. Say if an individual comes India for 120 days, obviously he is out of this test. So you need to test level 2 test. The level 2 test may you need to satisfy all these conditions. If you fail to satisfy either of these 3 conditions of level 2 test, you will jump to level 3 test, which is same as level 2 test for this category. Not a resident of any other country in a previous year and total income is more than 15 lakhs in a previous year. In both level 2 and level 3 test, he will be directly classified as a resident and not ordinary resident. It means in exam perspective, again you think from this category whether a person is falling neither citizen nor PIO category, whether a person is falling in citizen of India. Again, if a person is falling in a citizen of India, from in your mind, in your exams, you categorize in these 3 categories. Staying, leaves India for employment in a previous year, staying abroad, comes on visit to India. If he is not falling in this category, he will fall in this residual category. And accordingly, you work out how to determine this residential status. Leaving India for employment, there are 2 tests. Level 1 test, resident or not or non-resident. level 2 sorry, level 1 test. Level 2 test, if we will check level 2 test only if level 1 test failed. In this category, if he satisfied all these two conditions, he will be directly classified as a RNOR. If an individual is staying abroad comes on visit to India, you need to check level 1 test. If it fails, check level 2 test. If it fails, come to level 3. If level 3 test also fail, then that person will be non-resident. Again, here also, if level 2 test fail, then that person will be non-resident. You need to go little bit methodological. मैंने थोड़ा सा steps बना दिए. If you go by steps, it will help you in understanding the concept of this residential status. Now comes to third category, person of Indian origin. Person of Indian origin, again they divide into two categories, staying outside India and comes on visit to India, and other category. Here also simple replication of the what we studied above. Here level 1 test same, बट यहाँ पे सिर्फ लेवल 2 टेस्ट है, लेवल 3 नहीं है. लेवल 3 टेस्ट जो है वो सिर्फ सिटीजन को है, पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन को नहीं है. स्टेइंग आउटसाइड इंडिया कम्स ऑन विजिट टू इंडिया. लेवल 1 टेस्ट क्लियर है, आप पढ़ रहे स्टे इन इंडिया इन प्रीवियस ईयर फॉर 182 days. अगेन दिस इज अ बेनिफिट बेस्टोड पास ऑन टू द पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन. सेम RNOR की सेम कंडीशन. एंड लेवल 2 टेस्ट, व्हाट्स अ लेवल 2 टेस्ट? If, and this will we will come to level 2 test only if level 1 test fail. Same what we studied above, stay in Indian previous year for 120 days or more, stay in Indian preceding 4 previous year for 365 days or more, stay and sorry, an Indian income is more than 15 lakhs in previous year. If level 2 test satisfied, an individual will be classified directly resident but not ordinary resident, and if both these tests fail, again he will be classified as a non-resident. If a individual being a person of Indian origin, he is not coming to India for visit, then the criteria for determining the residential status is same basic condition जो मैंने आपको ऊपर narrate करी थी. And for determining the residential status of for determining resident but not ordinary resident status, satisfaction of basic condition जो ऊपर बताई थी. My point is, you need to determine, you need to categorize a resident individual into 3 categories and go step by step. I hope this will definitely help you in grasping the concept of my students are obviously benefiting from this simple thing. I've tried to make in a simple way, summarizing in a simple way, a coloring code so that you can memorize. I hope you like this concept of this residential status of an individual. In my next video, in my next lecture, I will come with another important aspect of residential status, understanding of that income deemed to accrue or arise in India.